You're warmly welcome to the Style Made Simple by Dressers channel, your online fashion class. Now for our first timers, you're warmly welcome. If you watch this video to the end and you like the content, kindly subscribe by pressing the subscription button. You already know what to do, and then hitting the notification button so when new videos are uploaded, you get alerted. So sleeves for this video. Now, sleeves on a garment turn out to be a great part for introducing or adding fancy design details onto your outfit. Now, most dressmaking processes like easing, gathers, pleats, flares, tucks, etc. can very easily be incorporated into a sleeve to give that design detail. It just takes your creativity. Now in this video we'll be working on two sleeves, and we'll be working on the cap sleeve, and then we'll also work on the cap sleeve with gathers. So that's the capped puff sleeve. Generally we tend to avoid puff sleeves for thick arms because of the fullness the puff sleeve comes with, and the roundness and all that. You don't want to add up to the size of the arms. So generally people tend to shy away, people with thick arms tend to shy away from puff sleeve. But the capped puff comes out as very cute and just little and round at the top there. So when you want to break away from the monotony of shirt sleeve for thick arms, the cap sleeve or the puffed cap is the way to go. So time to measure our armhole. That's the measurement we are going to be using on the sleeve. So as you can see, I have doubled the material because I'm going to use the same fabric for both the sleeve and then the lining. So I'll cut both as 2 in 1. First, we are measuring 5 inches from the top downwards. That will be the height of the crown of the sleeve. Square across by ruling a straight line, and then we are now going to use the measurement of the sleeve. That's 8. This is 9. I had 9 inches for the sleeve, so I measure it at the top and then measure it at the bottom. Then I divide the measurement into 2, both at the top and bottom. So now I'm going to curve from the center front and then give it a slight slant down to touch the 9 inches on the ruled line. So I'm going to start like this, and then once you get midway into the measurement, you begin slanting it downwards, slanting it diagonally to touch the marked point of 9, representing the armhole circumference. So I'm now measuring the sleeve length. I'm using 6 inches or 5 if you want it very short, and then this I'm measuring the around arm measurement, and then I'll square across at the underarm. So that's it, from the top downwards onto your 9 inches, your round arm measurement, and then you square across at the underarm. And then now I'm going to cut out. It's very simple. So you need your sleeve armhole measurements, your sleeve length, your round arm measurements. Those are the measurements you'll be needing for drafting the cap sleeve. The hem of the cap is always curved. It's not straight like the shirt sleeve. It's always curved. So when I open it up, you get to see what it looks like at the hem. So that's the crown, that's the hem of the sleeve, and the side and side is the underarm. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to line it now. So I'm notching my center, the center of the sleeve, put it together, 2 right sides facing, stitch the hem, clip, top stitch, turn and press. Because it's curved, you have to clip it and then top stitch the seam onto the part that will serve as a facing, and then once you are done, you press. I'm done with the pressing. I've put the two together. Now I've notched my center crown of the sleeve, and then I want to take the measurement so I can close up the underarm. So I leave an excess of 1 inch at the top of the sleeve. That 1 inch is for easing. That extra 1 inch is for easing. I have marked my seam, and now I'm measuring my around arm measurements. So I connect it to the around arm measurement. I stitch it, turn it to the right side, press, and then insert. Okay, once I have treated it, now take a look at it again. You can see the extra at the top. That extra is for easing. The sleeve should always be slightly bigger than your armhole so you can get correct fullness at the top. So I'm balancing the shoulder line to the sleeve head or the crown of the sleeve, underarm of the sleeve to the side seam of the outfit, and then I pin at the across chest sections and across back sections. You always ensure that there's enough excess in on the sleeve. Once you stretch it, you'll be able to balance it. This method of treating excess on the sleeve onto the armhole is called easing. You are easing in the excess to give that roundness at the top of the sleeve or roundness around the sleeve. I repeat, the sleeve should always, when you're fixing a certain sleeve, the sleeve should always be slightly bigger than the armhole so that you can get your fullness correctly. So once I have set in the sleeve, pinned it in, I am stitching around it. It is that simple. So I'm done, almost done with the stitching now. I'm left with a little area to ease in the excess, and it must be eased in such a way that you don't have any pleating or gathering. So this is what it looks like. This is what it's looking like. I've pressed it. So that's it. The cute cap sleeve, a variation of the shirt sleeve. Now we are moving on to the puffed cap. The same thing, I'm going to use the circumference of the armhole, but this time, because there's going to be a little gathers in, I'm adding an extra. I'm coming down 6 inches or 7 inches if you like, if you want it very high, and then I'm going to divide my space into 2 again and shape from the crown downwards. So there you go, from the center, and now from that point onwards coming down, I'm slanting it down diagonally to touch base with the circumference of my armhole times 2. So if my armhole was 9, I added a little bit to the 9 to space it out, because I'm going to be incorporating gathers into it. My around arm, I'm measuring on that line there. The bottom is fitted, but the top has a little gathers. So not too much gathers at the top and not too much gathers at the bottom. Cutting it out now. So there's a little extra. It's just like the first one we cut, but we just added a little more allowance in this because we are going to do a little gathering at the top and at the hem area. So this is it. I've cut out my lining. So I'm going to be putting the lining together with the sleeve and run some gathering stitch around the crown head and around the hem of the sleeve. Once that is done, I'll be pulling the gathers. So you hold the 2 threads from the wrong side and then pull your gathers. Make sure before you start pulling your gathers, you mark your center for the crown and then center for the around arm area. So you pull the gathers until you get the exact measurement of your round arm. Pull it gently with the 2 threads. You do the gathering on the right side, but you do the pulling on the wrong side, and make sure your stitch regulator is set at the highest, so the stitches can be loose enough for you to pull. So this is what I have, and that's like 7 or 6 inches. So I'm going to bind. First of all, I'm going to lock the stitch, so I pin and then run the thread around the pin to stay the stitch and make it stable whilst I bind it. For the method of binding, please refer to my video on edge finishing. So I'm picking the seam from the wrong side, then I'll turn the piece for the binding to the right side and top stitch it neatly, and I'll be done with the binding for the around arm area. So once that is done, I'm done with joining the seam. So now I'm turning my piece to the right side, turn it, pin, press off camera, and then I stitch. So that's it, almost done with the bound edge. So this is what it's looking like. So now I put the 2 pieces together and run my seam, close my underarm. I've joined my underarm seam. So now I can now pull the gathers at the top to get the roundness at the crown head. Remember, because it's a cute puff, we don't want too much gathers in. It's supposed to be something cute and something very round. So you distribute the gathers evenly around the crown area, preferably from the across chest to the across back area. So once that is done, you balance it to the armhole and make sure everything fits in. So now 2 right sides facing, the right side of the sleeve plus the right side of the fabric. I've fixed the sleeve or fitted the sleeve in. I'm pinning the shoulder points of the garment to the sleeve head, and then underarm of the garment to the side seam, underarm of the sleeve to the side seam of the garment, and then I secure the across back and then secure the across chest area, making sure as you work you still balance your gathers and distribute it evenly. So I'm going to stitch around now and secure the gathers in place. Once I'm done with my permanent stitch, I'm going to be taking off, or I'm going to be unpicking the gathering stitch in there. So that's why it's appropriate to use a contrast color thread, so you can pull out the gathering stitches easily. Once I unpick the gathering stitch, I secure the stitching again. I give it a second round just in case a part was undone whilst I was unpicking the gathering stitch. So I ran a second stitch to secure it in place. I knitting it, and then voila, there we have our capped puff. Very cute, very nice, very tiny. Thanks for watching this video.